there's a lot of action going on in the town of Plains, Georgia. On the 29th of December 2024, James Earl Carter Jr., our 39th U.S. President, passed away. He was preceded in death by his wife Rosalind, and they had 4 children. Jimmy was the longest living president and the first to reach the age of 100. My Sumter County adventure will include visiting some of the places related to Jimmy Carter, and I will show my experiences of the Plains, Georgia events that took place on the 4th and the 9th of January 2025. What makes this historic journey so amazing is that he was born here and he died here. Just like his historical funeral procession to Atlanta and Washington, D.C. began here and will end here. And you definitely want to wait till the very end to witness an incredible flyover of 21 Navy F-18s and a rare nighttime 21-gun salute for this great humanitarian.
I am Danny, and welcome to my channel, Dannovator, where my experiences become your adventure. Remember to please subscribe, and please hit that bell to be notified when I release my next video.
On the 3rd of January 2025, on what I would call a scouting trip, I first explored some of the Jimmy Carter sites in Americus. Located on the northeast side of Americus is the Jimmy Carter Regional Airport. Charles Lindbergh, who piloted the Spirit of St. Louis, first flew solo at this airfield in 1923. In downtown Americus, Jimmy Carter would frequently get his haircut at the Soapy's Barbershop. And across the street from Soapy's is the Windsor Hotel. Jimmy and his wife Rosalind once stayed overnight at the 1892 Windsor. The executive room that they stayed in is now known as the Carter Presidential Suite. And by the way, the Windsor is said to be haunted. Before heading over to Jimmy's hometown of Plains, where there's more to explore, I stopped by the Phoebe Sumter Medical Center. Security is tight as President Carter's body is being prepared for his final memorial journey. From the Phoebe Medical Center, I travel west down Highway 280 to Plains, Georgia, which is about 10 miles. This will be the initial route that begins the funeral motorcade on the 4th of January. Over to the left is the Plains Water Tower. Mainstreet is also on the left. And the Carter's residence is on the right. Turning left on the Old Plains Highway, the motorcade will pass by the grave sites of Jimmy's mom and dad, which are on the right. And we'll stop briefly for a special bell ringing at the Boyhood farm. And from there, they will continue to Atlanta, Georgia, then to Washington, D.C., and then we'll arrive back in Plains on the 9th of January. While visiting the farm on Friday, January 3rd, I was able to see the practice run of them stopping at the Boyhood farm. I was at the right place at the right time. Jimmy's father, Earl, moved the family here in 1928. At the entrance of the Jimmy Carter National Historic Park are Jimmy's handprints. This is a fascinating place to explore, especially being able to see inside the home and the room that belonged to young Jimmy Carter. Jimmy lived here until 1941, and then he left to attend Georgia Southwestern College in Americus. The family would move from the farm in 1949. Later, the farm was repurchased and restored and became this historical site in 2000. This is the bell that will ring for the motorcade on January 4th, 39 times in honor of our 39th president. Heading back to Plains on Old Plains Highway is the Lebanon Cemetery. This is one of 5 cemeteries in the nation where a president and the First Lady's parents are buried in the same place. Here are the graves of Jimmy's parents, James Earl Sr. and Bessie Lillian. Also buried here is Jimmy's brother, Billy. And over in this area are the graves of Rosalind's parents, Wilburn Edgar and Frances Alethea Smith. And right down the road from Lebanon Cemetery is this house that was built around 1850. This is considered the most haunted house in this area. Jimmy and Rosalind lived here from 1955 to 1961. That was right after Jimmy left the Navy and before he became a Georgia senator. Mainstreet is the central hub of exploring Plains, Georgia. This row of businesses are full of antiques, souvenirs, and many memories of the life of Jimmy and Rosalind Carter. This is where you will also find the old Carter Peanut Warehouse. Earl Carter ran his peanut operation from here until his death in 1953. After Jimmy returned home from his Navy service, he ran the business until 1961. Jimmy ran his campaigns for senator and governor from this building. At the end of Main Street, by the railroad tracks, is the depot. It was built around 1888. It was the campaigning site of Jimmy Carter's 1976 run for president. Walter Mondale would become the vice president. And just in front of Main Street is Billy Carter's service station. The press gathered here during Jimmy's presidential campaign, and they are gathering here today for his death. Located along Bond Street, next to Billy's service station, is the old Plains High School. It was built in 1921. In 1996, it became the main visitor center for the Jimmy Carter National Historic Site. It is an informative museum of the legacy of Jimmy and Rosalind Carter, who both were graduates from here. This is a replica of the Resolute desk. In a protective case is Jimmy Carter's Nobel Peace Prize. It was presented to him for his years of seeking international peace, human rights, and economic and social development. Did you know that Jimmy Carter won a Grammy Award? This is one of the 4 of his that's on display. It is from his spoken word narrative from one of his many books, Faith, Journey for All. One thing that I didn't know is that Jimmy Carter was a painter. Jimmy served actively in the U.S. Navy from 1946 to 1953 and in the reserves from 1953 to 1961, achieving the rank of lieutenant. Behind the high school was once the Y Sanitarium, which was built in 1921. Jimmy Carter was born here on October 1st, 1924, and became the first U.S. president to be born in a hospital. It is now Lillian Carter Health and Rehabilitation, named after the mother of Jimmy Carter. Continuing down Bond Street and turning right on Buena Vista Road, you pass by this unusual peanut statue. The Smiling Peanut was created in 1976 for a rally in Indiana for Jimmy Carter's presidential campaign. Past the Smiling Peanut, heading north, is the Maranatha Baptist Church. This was a church that Jimmy and Rosalind attended near the end of their lives and was a favorite attraction for visitors to attend and listen to Jimmy Carter teach Sunday school. On January 9th, it will be the site of the final church service for Jimmy Carter before his burial. By the police station, there's one of those old pay phones. West of town on Church Street is the Plains United Methodist Church where Jimmy and Rosalind were married in 1946. Their 2023 77th wedding anniversary made them the longest living married presidential couple in history. And just a little further down Church Street, which is also Highway 280, is the Carter residence. Its property is protected by the Secret Service. On January 9th, After the funeral procession leaves Maranatha, former President Jimmy Carter will join his wife in eternal rest next to the pond. On January 4th, I arrive in Plains at about 7:36 a.m. I had no clue of how bad the crowds were going to be today or what time the roads would start to close, so I decided to come early. Today is day 2, January 4th, here in Plains. So we're going to walk around and see what kind of stuff's going on. Yesterday, I scouted this area and found this location to film. I believe I found the perfect spot. It looks like the law enforcement helicopters are ensuring a safe route for the funeral procession. This was the first time I noticed this Jimmy Carter memorial. And as mentioned earlier, Billy Carter's service station is the home base of the media. Behind the businesses on Main, I found this peculiar structure. And heading back around the corner to my chosen spot on Highway 280 is this amazing Coca-Cola sign. I need to walk back to 280 so I can reserve that spot. During today's event, a trolley will be bringing in visitors from a remote parking lot. Just before 10 o'clock, an escort is leading the family to Americus Cemetery to begin the procession. And now the funeral procession, which includes former President Jimmy Carter, begins his final journey to the nation's capital. Jimmy Carter will arrive at his boyhood home very shortly and will get those 39 rings from the bell and proceed to Atlanta, Georgia for a ceremony and then progress to Washington, D.C. for more ceremonies. Then on January 9th, he will be brought back to his hometown where he will be laid to rest. I am driving back into Sumter County 5 days later. Today, January 9th, Jimmy Carter's funeral motorcade will arrive back into Plains for his burial. The Motorcade is expected to travel back through Plains at about 3:30 p.m., where a final private service will be held at Maranatha. There are more people and more cameras lining up Highway 280 for this event.
So behind me is the Carter compound.
This barrier will be as close as I can get to film the graveside 21 gun salute later. I spent most of my morning getting filler clips for my video that I missed earlier. From here, I walked to the Methodist church by the Carter residence. Then I learned the Flyover location was not going to be there.
Well, there's been a little delay in Washington, D.C., so everything got pushed back a little bit. So I'm heading to the middle of town so I can see this flyover and also see the procession as it comes through.
The funeral motorcade has just arrived in Plains, Georgia, and is heading for the church service at Maranatha. I was told that in about 15 minutes after it passes, the 21 F-18 Super Hornets will fly over, which will include a missing man formation. Following is my outro, but is not my conclusion. My video will end with the F-18 flyovers and Carter's last ceremony at his gravesite.
Well, I hope y'all enjoyed my South Georgia Jimmy Carter tribute. If you did, make sure you give me a big thumbs up. And always remember, your adventure awaits with the Dannovator. See y'all the next time.
After the service at Maranatha, the funeral procession takes former President Jimmy Carter through his hometown one last time, so his fellow friends and family can pay one last tribute to this great South Georgian.
love you all. Love you, dear. Love you, lady. Oh, thank you.
There's a,
Oh, yeah, wake up.
Ooh, I heard it. I felt it. That's good. never heard. He had never heard anything that way. Oh, that's why it's good to be part of this event.